Yo, Shalom, what's going on, y'all? I'm excited about this message today because this message is something that hit home for me recently, and it's really something that's been on my heart and my spirit for a very long time. However, God will line things up the perfect way to where when you're ready to receive a message, you are ready to receive it, and hopefully some of you guys receive it today. But I want to talk about our greatness and God's expectations around it and how it's not necessarily a preference, it's not a suggestion, it is a command, right? We are commanded to be great. We're commanded to walk in the faith. There's a reason why there's so many times in the Gospels where you'll hear ye of little faith. Actually, it's only 5 times in the Gospels, but it sounds like Christ always, it's almost like when you hear the stories, you find Christ always baffled at how little faith that the disciples had, especially because they'd seen a lot of the track record that he had laid out, a lot of the success as far as the miracles and the wonders that he performed right in front of their eyes, and yet they would still struggle with their faith. So imagine us who haven't gotten the opportunity to see that. We struggle with it on a daily basis. But I also was looking into how in the Bible it says fear not or be not afraid about 103 times, right? So there's a constant understanding around how we're not supposed to fear certain things. Now, the emphasis around what we should fear is hellfire, brimstone, the lake of fire, right? And then also fearing the judgment and punishment of God, of the Most High, to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. So these are things that we are called to in and amongst the same subject, which is fear, right? We're called to not fear certain things. However, we are called to fear very specific things, and those things that we are to fear are of God. Everything else that's not of God is typically of man or ourselves, right? So many of us who maybe are experiencing a little bit of a stumbling block when it comes to stepping out into your greatness, stepping out into your potential, whatever that may be. I spent years in other arenas that I saw my potential and I saw my impact. However, I wasn't able to truly establish my roots or my grounds in it and really take off. But I'm taking the wisdom, the experience, and the confirmation gained from those experiences to utilize it in the path that I'm on now that I've separated myself from that arena, which again was recent. It was right around February after spending 9 years there. So yeah, there was definitely a little bit of a healing process, but what greater healing than applying the things that you've learned from those seasons, applying the things that you've taken from those dark spots, those dark spaces, those valley lows, and using it to create new highs in your life. Not that we should be seeking out the highs, but be even killed, but you know what I mean, getting back up to the mountaintop, so to speak. But it's like we literally have fears that keep us in a position to where, again, they don't talk about this in the churches, but the fear that we have can lead us to hell as well. That can absolutely lead you into hell, having fear. Look at the story of the talents, right? The gentleman who had the one talent, who instead of utilizing that talent, instead of seeing it as a gift that, hey, at least you got a talent that you were given to then multiply and amplify in the earth to further establish the kingdom, instead of seeing it as that, he put shame around it and was like, man, I only got one talent, like what the heck is this? Went and buried it. And he said, I know, God, that you're a hard man and that your judgments can be harsh, etc., but I'm hoping that he was sent to eternal darkness. He was casted out into internal separation. That is what we should really be fearing. We shouldn't be fearing the things of this world. We shouldn't be fearing, and I'm speaking to myself here, I'd feared putting this truth out because I'm like, man, there's shadow banning that's happening. There's people who don't even want to hear the word. There's so much aggression against anything that is Christ focused, which is very interesting. Right? You don't see people kicking Qurans on TikTok. You don't see people ripping pages out of the Quran, but they'll rip pages out of the Bible. You hear atheists talk, and they don't talk about the Quran or other religions mainly. They usually they don't talk about other religions. They typically focus on Christ. They focus on the Christians, essentially. And I think there's reasons for that as well too, because nowadays, again, there's I believe people who are following Christ. Those are the real, I'd say, Christians, right, that are following Christ. However, you have churchianity, right, and Christianity. Churchianity is teaching something completely different, and not every church, but a lot of them are just not really in alignment with the Bible, and there's a lot left out. which is some of the stuff that I like talking about here, the so-called taboo topics, which is interesting in and amongst itself, right? Again, these are all fear-based things, like, oh, don't talk about politics and religion, but you got somebody's grandma out here singing WAP. You know, you got them talking about eating something like eating anus like groceries. You know, like, let's be real. There's selective censorship nowadays. There's selective sensitivity where it's like, oh, don't talk about that, but we're gonna completely talk about this vulgar, boisterous, blasphemous, overly explicit, overly sexualized thing over here and put it in people's faces. It's crazy. So I'm not living in fear, because you know what? I fear the Most High. I fear His judgment. I fear not being told, well done, good and faithful servant. That's properly placed fear. Everything else is misplaced fear. So stepping out of that is, I believe, what we're called to do, and that's really the purpose of this message today. And this is where my conviction comes from, because, man, I lived in fear for so many years from conditioning. I'd say from that arena as well too. It's very interesting, because it's like, while in that arena, it was like, be careful of the people who will talk down on your dream. Be careful of the people who will, you know, highlight your weaknesses. Be careful of the people that will shun you and try to keep you small and have you play small. But then the moment that you start to try to step out of that same arena, they become the very people that they told you to be careful about, right? And I don't have any vendettas with these guys. You know, I still maintain relationships and friendships with them. It's kind of, you know, it is what it is. It's kind of distance, because, again, like, realizing that and having many other realizations and revelations once stepping out of the illusions and persuasions and delusions that were happening, whether it was conscious or subconscious or unconscious. I'm competent that it was happening, and I'm more competent now being out of the bubble, right? Some of us experience this when it comes to relationships. You don't realize how much you're being manipulated until you step out of a relationship. And funnily enough, actually, the last relationship I was in, it helped me realize what was happening to me in that arena, because that person was doing the same thing. Again, whether they knew it or not, which is why I'm not shaming the person, but I was able to pick up on the Jezebel spirit. I was able to pick up on, you know, the shifting of sand as far as like the foundation versus the firm foundation. I was able to, as I start walking more in my faith, which is why this is so vital when you're walking with God. There's even scriptures in, I believe, Ecclesiasticus that talks about, do not make yourself an underling to someone, right? I had someone teaching me that words of their own flesh or their own mentality, and because they'd studied the Bible and had studied the different languages and translations, they were saying to me, like, man, I love you, so like I'm a little frustrated, honestly, that like you're not just taking my word for it. And then literally that day I read in the scriptures to not have someone do that. Like, don't fall for that, essentially. I can't remember the exact scriptures, but it basically said, do not make yourself an underling to someone, and pretty much like, don't just take their word for things just because they're convicted about it. And this is the wisdom that God provides. This is the protection that God provides. And again, I'll continue to talk about these things, because there's a lot of situations that we find ourselves in that really, if we would have been in alignment with God, He would have protected us from it, because His word is true. His word is accurate. His word is solid foundation. So as I started building my solid foundation, I started being able to see the cracks in other people's foundations. It might have been a judgmental lens at first, but I've been tapering that down and just realizing, like, again, forgive them for they don't know what they're doing. However, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to sit and watch you do it to me and have it be done to where the damage now is irreversible, and I'm now dealing with the results of other people's thinking, which is known as social dogma. Anyways, like I'm ranting, but it's from the heart, and hopefully it's adding some kind of value. But there's a lot of fears that are programmed into us by he say, she say, by our parents. You know, oh, well, why are you doing that entrepreneurial thing? Why don't you just go to school? And they're choosing security, which is a false sense of security that actually leads to bondage. Whereas if you're the one entrepreneur in your family, if you're the one person that's actually going after your dreams, while all the others, they allow their dreams to be snuffed out by fear, by doubt, right? Because doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Bars. Of course they're going to try to have you play small. Of course they're going to try to put you in a box, but you got to break away from that and understand that you are choosing true freedom by virtue of you stepping into that ambiguity. You're choosing truly acting on faith and walking by faith, not by sight, because you're not going based off the fact that no one else in your family has done what you're about to do. You're not going based off the fact that they're all saying it's impossible, which is their projection in their minds of how they see themselves and their futures, and they're putting it onto you. That be careful, and oh well, I'm just worried about you. It's like, worry about yourself. I got this, because it's not on me, it's God. I've given the yoke to him. I've put that heavy weight on the altar, and now I just need to take the steps, and he's gonna chart the course. So what really struck me, and just where all this conviction is coming from, is I was reading my Bible, right? And it's back there somewhere. Right there. It's a Bible that allows you to end up in places that God designs for you to be in, right? It's a Cambridge version KJV Bible with apocrypha, with red lettering to show when Christ is talking, and then also with precepts, and the precepts take you to other correlated texts randomly in the Bible. So I ended up from Psalms, Proverbs, or Ecclesiasticus into Ezekiel. And I'm reading Ezekiel, and I'm just like, you know what? Let me just keep reading and see where this takes me, bro. So I was teeter-tottering, like, okay, now I'm out of that arena that I was in. I have more time, more space, more capacity, mentally, emotionally, financially as well too. I invested hundreds and thousands of dollars into that arena. And again, there's people who got success out of it, but in Florida, it was a little bit of a different story. A lot of people were kind of hitting this stumbling block, this stagnation. But anyways, nonetheless, that arena had burnt me out to where I was like, man, I was using my voice, I was serving people, I was putting service and sacrificing myself for the service of others, and it all turned out to not. I'm just more bitter, more frustrated, more tired, developed back pain, experienced a divorce, from a marriage that if I had mentors that were, and let me not put this all on them because I still made the decision, but if I had mentors that were vested in me, not just in what it would look like as far as like, oh wow, another married couple in this arena, or wow, look at them go, two power players that are coming together, because we were both rocking it and we were both well known in the Florida market. Humbly, it was awesome, but it was definitely humbling. But if they actually really look for, I believe, our true best interest, not that they didn't where they were and at that time, but I just look at it from a different vantage point where I'm just like, there were certain things that I was saying that were red flags that should have been like, yeah, nah, I don't think you guys should do this. But again, in the same breath, it's like I felt convicted, made the decision, and still stand on that because I believe that God had that all ordained to where now I truly understand what it means to be a husband. And really, I can't say that unless and until I'm in that position again. But I've been doing the studying, and I've been studying what does God say a proper husband is, and what that looks like, and what to look for in a wife. Again, just natural built-in protection when you have the knowledge, right? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But then when you actually start to fear not spending time with the Lord, and fear being told, depart from me, I never knew you, you then are more inclined to say, okay, well, what do I need to do, or who do I need to become in order to be someone that God does know, to be someone that wants to get to know God, and that God acknowledges that, and then therefore allows me to spend eternity with him. That's the focus. But nonetheless, what was I saying? Yeah, so nonetheless, like all that played its part. But the thing is that I got so burnt out to where like I literally turned my back from people. It's like I used to be the person where I can go out and about and I'll say hi to everyone and so on and so forth. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm wearing my headphones, and I still do in a sense, because it's like a sense of anxiety, because every time I went out, it was an agenda behind it. It was like, I'm gonna try to impact someone today and talk to someone today, which is not my natural personality. It depends how you catch me. People will say that I'm the most social, introvert, antisocial person that they know, because I have these dualities that sometimes conflict. But nice to meet you. But yeah, it's hit or miss, right? Because like naturally, I don't want to talk to anyone when I'm out and about. But if I happen to get into the conversation, I'm bubbly, I'm open, I'm present, and I'm there, right? And I'm open to the connection. But yeah, like my heart really waxed cold towards people, because man, a mixture of that arena, but then I can't just put it all on that arena. It's also sales. How many people really don't value their own time, and therefore that bleaches out into how they treat other people's time, and just the dishonesty and the manipulative tactics that people have, and how sometimes people's fear of hurting your feelings actually leads to them doing things that are even worse. It's like, if you're in sales, you know exactly what I mean. It's like, bro, if you're not interested, tell me you're not interested. Do not have me go all the way through the process of showing you the value of this product that you clearly don't see value in from the beginning, and now you've just wasted, an hour of my life, right? Or even worse, again, in that arena, was we would take them throughout a 4 to 6 week long process of interviewing and qualifying to see if they're a good fit for mentorship, all for them to get to the end of the process and say things that they could have said day one, so it's just like that was so draining over 9 years. And I was just like, bro, F all y'all, so that's just real, man. Anyway, so reading Ezekiel kind of helped me understand that, all right, I need to kick it back into gear and get back to serving God's people and get back to not seeing this life as selfishly mine to enjoy, but more so for me to endure and embrace whatever I need to embrace for the sake of contributing and stewarding my gifts that aren't even mine, but I can only say they're mine compared to the next person because they have their own gifts, but they're all from God, right? To sow into his people. Reap what you sow. So really look at Ezekiel 3:1-19. That's really the meat of it. At the end of Ezekiel 3:6, it says, surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto thee, but the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me. This is God talking to Ezekiel. For all the house of Israel are impudent and hard-headed. Behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their foreheads. 9. As an adamant harder than a flint have I made thy forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. So Mez was heated about this. He really did. Bro, Ezekiel did not want to do it. And there's so many of us who, again, maybe in that position where it's like, for me, over the last couple years, this right here has been in the cooking process. And I'm like, how am I supposed to speak to these people? God, how am I supposed to speak to your people? And look how hard-headed they are. Look how for wickedness they are. Look how, and again, myself included in some sense, but when you see, again, the temperament of society where it's like they don't even want to hear God's word, and you'll watch videos of the street preachers and you see some people's demons manifesting. It's not them, it's the demons within them. But at the end of the day, it's like there's people who are so hard-headed towards the word of God because they've really been hurt, which is, again, where I pray for them more than anything. But it doesn't make me excited, to jump and speak to the people who are gonna, spit and yell and don't even want anything to do with it. So I was like, all right, well then, y'all do y'all thing. Good luck with that, because I know what your destiny is. But and again, no man really knows, but God's pretty clear on, like, if you do this and that, it's gonna be bad, bro. But anyways, so Mans was heated about it, but he still obeyed. That's the key. So in 14 he says, so the Spirit lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness in the heat of my spirit, but the hand of the Lord was strong upon me. That's a key part, but this is the key part. I love this. 17, right? 3:17 of Ezekiel says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. 18. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speaketh to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. I'm going to break this down. Yet, if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. He repeats this just to make sure he's clear. And this is what was speaking directly to me. In 20, he says, again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, right, which is known sin. You're righteous, you know right from wrong, but you still go into your sin. I've definitely been guilty of that, and I still may continue to be guilty of that. But the more that I walk in the Spirit, the less likely that's going to happen, right? Because I'm not above reproach where it's like I can't fall back into my flesh. No, the flesh and the spirit are always warring. But that fear of the Lord, that fear of what will happen to me as a righteous man, as it reads here, is enough to where it's like, hey, bruh, be like Christ, willing to suffer rather than sin. I think that's Titus. I can't remember. Anyways, I got too many scriptures here I need to get in front of. I need to get through. So again, 3 verse 20. So again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he hath done shall not be remembered. But his blood will I require at thine hand, at your hand, bruh. 21. Nevertheless, if thou warn the righteous man that the righteous sin not, and he doth not sin, he shall surely live because he is warned. Also, thou hast delivered thy soul. So basically, bro, if you know better and you're not doing better, if you know better and you're doing better, but you're not warning other people to know and do better, you're going right there with them, bro. Like, you know, like his blood is going to be on your hands. So that's why I have this fearlessness and this boldness rented from God, to where it's like, hey man, I don't even don't shoot the messenger, you know what I mean? But I'll take shots if I got to. I'm willing to die for what I stand on hood. But I'd rather die one death versus being part of the group of people that are gonna die 2 deaths. Again, I don't know if your pastor's talking about this, but you die a physical death and then you die another death that remains perpetual, right? Where you're perpetually being tormented, bruh, like in eternal hellfire. And there's some scriptures that even break down visions of people getting walked through hell, and they're asking the angel, so that one who just got the pitchfork shoved up his bowels, what did he do to receive that? Oh, that one that's laying there and half his body's in the fire, but he also has worms eating at him, and he's moaning and groaning and asking, you know, why does he have the worst punishment of them all? Why does he have that punishment? And he's this one who's running with speed, but there's another demon who's chasing after him and pushes him into the lake of fire. What did he do to deserve that? Bruh, like, y'all, like, this is real, you know what I mean? And man, hey, I ain't worried about none of y'all. I ain't worried about the comments. I ain't worried about the likes. I ain't worried about the subscribers. None of that. I'm making sure that I'm doing my homework. I'm getting through my list and checking it twice to make sure, like, hey God, we good, brother. You know what I mean? Like, don't do it to me, baby. You know me. We good, homie. You feel me? Nah, bro, y'all. The rest of y'all on some other stuff, bro. So, hey, man, get right with God, man. You know, the Lord loves you. Obviously, He doesn't want that to be your fate, which is why hell is warned about way more in the Bible as opposed to heaven. All these prosperity gospels, all these gospels are talking about like what you deserve and just going along with the culture that me focus. It's like, nah, it's really not about you, bro. It's about using whatever God gave you, honing in on that, mastering that, and then passing it on to the next person and being able to walk upright, so that again we will be judges of fallen angels. That's another scripture. Oh, why you judging me, bruh? Because I'm gonna be a judge. I'm gonna be a righteous judge, under the hand of God, to judge even the angels that have fallen. So come on, bruh. Like, man, read your Bible. Love y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.